Hey guys, Under here with another how-to video. In this video we're going to be talking about how to play the early game in multiplayer Civ 6, so please bear that in mind guys, it is a multiplayer guide. It's going to be a basic guide on quite a few things really, how to scout, district placement, early game decisions and whatnot. So this is an ideal guide if you're new to multiplayer Civ 6 or you're thinking about playing multiplayer Civ 6. The early game is very important. So a lot of these decisions can have a really snowbally effect on your game. Examples of that is the build order we'll be talking about. Scouting is very important, getting those science, gold and culture first meets. Settling your cities, forming those natural borders between you and your enemies or friends for that matter. So yeah, the first thing you're going to look at when you load into your game is your settler and your warrior. I have made a guide on how to settle your capital city, so hopefully you guys have watched that before watching this, because we won't talk too much about moving the settler. So the first thing you want to do is move your warrior, just to check out if there's anything worth moving to. You want to aim to settle turn 1 or 2. You can settle turn 3 or 4 max if if there is something worth moving to, but in that case it's going to have to be like a very good wonder, or if your start's completely garbage. In this start, obviously we're just going to settle in place here. We've got some 2-2s to work. I mentioned 2-2s on purpose because they're very important in the early game. They're the sort of the magic number. You want to be looking to work them and settle towards them in the early game. So yeah, we're just going to settle in place here. Now, before we go on, I just want to mention that I have picked Sweden for a reason. And that's because they don't have any early game bonuses. They don't have any unique district that kicks in early game, unique unit. They're not focused on naval, and they're not focused on religion either. So it's just really for the sake of simplicity of the video. Now, turn 1, you're going to have a lot of time to think about. Obviously without sort of annoying the other players, you don't want to take too long. But feel free to use this turn to think about some potential districts that you can place, maybe some cities when you start getting there, if you do have a lot of vision on turn 1, and what you're going to be heading towards. First thing we want to talk about on this infinite turn is how you're going to approach getting your golden age. You want to avoid a normal age at all costs. There is strategy involved around dark ages, but we won't get into that in this video. So the reason you want a golden age is, as you can see on the picture here, the golden age bonuses just give you that extra bit of oomph towards getting the all-important early techs and civics that we'll go into a bit later on in the video. In the mod, at the time of making this video, the golden age bonus for Pembrush and Voice also gives you 1 gold per district that you build, as well as the boost in the culture. So Pembrush and Voice is the go-to pick currently. Free Inquiry is another option if you are building a lot of commercial hubs, but it takes a bit longer to build up to that. So think about how you're going to get that golden age. Best way is probably to build Stonehenge. It's going to give you the points for building the wonder, and then on top of that you're going to get the points for founding your religion and the point for getting a great profit too. Pin some wonders that you can build. A lot of I think most, actually all wonders have a requirement which you can check. So the best way to check the requirement is to push F9, open the Civilopedia, type in the particular wonder what you want to build. So in this case we'll look at Hanging Gardens. As you can see here, we need irrigation and to be adjacent to a river. So other early wonders, for example, Artemis needs to be next to a camp, Stonehenge needs to be next to a stone. So have a good look at your tiles, think about what you're going to do, make sure you pin them. The pins are super handy. They've added a lot more icons into the game, so you can actually pin each particular wonder that you can thinking about building. Other ways to get a golden age, very briefly, are kill barb camps, meet players, settle on wonders, find wonders, settle on desert and tundra, and build a first boat or use a strategic resource. So for example, a horse for horses and an iron for swordsmen. Whilst we're on the subject of strategics, that's one thing we want to briefly talk about now, is you're going to need a classical unit of some kind. And by a classical unit, I mean a horse or a swordsman. It's for a number of reasons, really. If you've just got a load of warriors and slingers or archers in your empire, your enemy is going to be able to see that by the garrison defense strength of your cities. So we want to bump that up by building at least a horseman. Swordsmen are better for defending, horses are attacking. So we take animal husbandry. Horses can spawn on flat grassland and flat plains tiles, with the exception of floodplains, we can check by pushing 4 and looking for this flooded river icon. So bear that in mind when you are going towards animal husbandry. So in this case, we can have horses here, here, and here. The only time you wouldn't go animal husbandry is if you're completely surrounded by hills, or tiles with features on them, or floodplains like we just mentioned. Another reason you do want to find your classical units is just to have an army to deter your opponent with, because people can go on the score screen here and look at your military strength when they've met you. Because, as it says there, it's 20, and that's because I've just got a warrior that has 20 melee strength, and that's how it's calculated, is by the melee strength of your units, not the range strength, so bear that in mind. We also want those important classical units for maybe warring ourselves, or at least taking a city-state. So yeah, we'll tech towards animal husbandry first, and the build order we're going to do this game, in fact most games, is double scout into settler. The reason we build 2 scouts is because we want to find all those important first meets on city-states, the goody huts, and any neighbours that you might have, so we can see what strategics they have, what sort of land they have, whether it's a good idea for either of us to go to war. I mentioned first meets because science, gold, and culture first meets are very strong in the early game. As you can see here, we've got 2.6 science per turn, and that's from the palace, 2 from the palace, and half from a population. So if we met a science first meet in the first few turns, we'd actually double our science almost, because you're going to get 2 science from a scientific first meet. Final thing we want to talk about whilst we're on turn 1 is pinning any potential districts. I mean, it is kind of too early in the game to be thinking about whether we want to be aiming science or culture or gold at the moment, but just take that time that you've got to pin some potential districts or even cities. So if you've got mountains, have a look for them +3 campuses, +4 campuses that you can maybe aim towards. Here we've got a potential industrial zone here. We're going to have the +1 bonus for 2 adjacent mine improvements. We're going to have an aqueduct here. We go into those map tacks again and just pin them for later use, because you will find that you run out of time as the game goes on, especially if you're at war. So we're going to the next turn now. Now with your warrior, you want to try and find out where you want to settle. That's the main goal with your first warrior, because what you're going to be doing with your warrior is, like I said, finding out where you want to settle it, but looping it back round so it's ready to escort the first settler that comes out, because you want to use your scouts to obviously scout, because they can travel a lot further than the warrior can. So best part of advice of this video, even though it's a tiny thing, is to use the settler lens, which is 4 on the keyboard. When you're moving units, always move 1 tile at a time. That way you can check that if you're going towards something like a city-state that might be in the direction that you've just found, or you see, I don't know, barbs that you don't want to die to. So make sure you keep that open. You can also see any potential settles or rivers you want to head towards, because the fresh water lens. We'll also talk about how the red hexes are super important in a second. So the first thing I'm seeing over here at the moment is there's not much production in this potential city. We've only got 1, 2, 2, so we won't be pinning that just yet. We'll be scouting for a few more turns. So, like I said, we want to maximise our movement efficiency by moving 1 at a time. We found a goody hut which we'll be taking. Now this has just turned into a good setup because we've found some mountains which can be very strong for campuses. Each mountain tile next to your campus will give it 1 adjacency, also known as standard adjacency. We've also got 2 rainforest tiles here. Now I mention those because rainforests give minor adjacency to a campus, and mine is 0.5 each, so 2 is 1. So we've got a +3 campus here. 3 is a good number for a campus because it works with the enlightenment card, which is it's a lot further on in the game, but it's very important. Not the enlightenment card, sorry, the rationalism card. Extra science from buildings and campuses, +50% if the city population is 10 or higher, and +50% if the district has at least a 3 adjacency bonus. So yeah, we can look at settling around here, probably on the stone tile. This is a good settle too, because obviously you're going to keep that 2-2, but it's a bit too far away from the bananas. If we were later on in the game, we might look at settling here, because we could just buy into that, but gold is quite important for the early game, which we'll discuss. So let's go next turn now and grab this goodie hut, finish our scout. Let's get the hut first, just to see what we can get from that. Obviously it's totally random. Now we're going to talk about scouting here now that we've got our scout out. So we'll work on that next scout. Now scouts have 3 movement, so you're going to look at that and you're probably going to assume that that means that they can move 3 tiles. But in Civ 6, each tile costs a certain amount of movement. Now, these flat tiles all cost 1. You can tell how much movement cost is just by hovering over. You can see it on that about halfway down there. It says movement cost 1. So we can move here, but you might sort of, right-click a tile too fast. Presume you can move here through this tile. The reason we can't move through this tile, the reason we can't get there through this tile is because this is in fact 3 movement. 2 for a hill and then 1 for the rainforest as well. As you can see again, movement costs 3. So if we did move here, we'd be stuck. So that's why I mentioned before about moving 1 tile at a time as well, because it means we can just move that extra bit further. So yeah, we'll go there. Scouts do get upgrades to allow them to move through certain terrain quicker. We can mention that if we get one. Yeah, keep hitting that 4 button on the keyboard and scouting away. Now, after this scout, we're obviously going to be doing a settler. So we'll scout this bit of river here, and then we'll bring him back round. Remember, just keep looking, see where you can settle. This is looking even better now. You do keep bonus resources when you settle on tiles. So settling that would normally give your city 2-1, like this tile here, because the grassland hill doesn't count. But because there's a stone on there that's giving it +1 production, that will in fact be a 2-2. So we'll be looking to settle that too later on. We've also grown in this city, so we can briefly touch on tile management. And I'm going to mention these 2-2s again. I haven't really explained why these 2-2s are so important or why I do keep bringing them up, but it's just because they're a good balance between growth and production. If you work in too much food, you're not ever going to be able to produce anything, and production is more important than on standard speed of the game. This is online speed. Obviously, due to multiplayer, we do play our games in 1 sitting, so it's the most optimal, even though it still takes sometimes 6, 7, 8 hours to complete a game. We do have to use New World Age for the more hills for more production, and the timer as well. So yeah, the only time you want to be working maximum food over production is if you're close to unlocking a really good district, or well, not even a really good district, but you're at 3 pop and you're close to pop 4 and you can unlock your next district slot, or you're 6 so you can unlock it 7 population district and so on. And on the other side of the coin, you can also work. We haven't got any here, but for example, 1-3 tiles, so like 1 food, 3 production. If you are blocked by housing, or you really want to finish some units, then you can focus on production more. I would recommend, you can use these down here, but I wouldn't recommend these. They sort of auto assign your citizens based on what you click or what you deny. But I would strongly recommend custom tile management. mainly because the AI is really bad at deciding what to work. I'm surprised it didn't try and work this gold. It always does seem to prioritize gold. So yeah, when you're making something, we'll talk about that when we're making a settler, because the scout is quite cheap, so it's not really going to be affected. So let's hit next turn. We're going to carry on scouting. Now we've found the barb camp. Sorry, a barb scout even has found us, and it's got an exclamation mark over its head. So you want to be careful of that because it knows where your city is. So that means now it's going to go back to its camp and start pumping out units and sending them to you. Since I think it was the summer update, it could have been the autumn update, Barb seemed to be more aggressive, although it wasn't really in the patch notes, so it could just be people's assumption. So yeah, you want to look at maybe sending a unit that way. We could use our warrior after we're done settling. Barb camps are also useful for era score, like I mentioned before, and the bronze working boost, which is quite important for finding iron and unlocking your encampments. Boost for that is to kill 3 barbs. I would, if you can do the boosts, if they're possible, quickly do them. They can save you a hell of a lot of time. I mean, if you were to do every boost in the game, you'd reach the sort of last tech 40% quicker than someone that did no boosts. It's not really a realistic scenario, but it's just to put that into perspective. They do help a lot. It can mean the difference between you rushing someone and them not being able to get units up. So try and do the boosts, but don't fall into a trap of trying to do unrealistic boosts. For example, if you killed a barb camp before it spawned any units, you're going to be stuck at 2. Then you're going to have to find another barb to kill. So yeah, we'll carry on scouting. Remember to keep hitting 4 on the keyboard literally every time you move. This is why, because you've run into a barb, you're going to get zone controlled here. So we'll deter. Right, and here we go. This is what we wanted to talk about, these red hexes. Now, this is giving me information that I wouldn't otherwise know if I wasn't hitting 4 on the keyboard. As you guys can see here now, you can't actually tell there's anything here. But if we hit 4 on the keyboard, we can see these red hexes, which means too close to city or blocked by terrain. Now we know this isn't in Wonder or anything, so the terrain cannot be blocked by settling there. So we know that there's a city state or a player here. So that means now that getting that information, we may have gone, carried on maybe this way. We can change our thing now, our paving to go towards that. And we can see here now by these blue borders that it is in fact a blue city state. So we probably will get the first meet on that. And using that lens, that settler lens, has meant that we found that science city state when we may not already have done. Okay, so you've finished your animal husbandry and you're wondering what to sack next. You've got 2 main choices here. You can go for the greedy route, which is apprenticeship. Apprenticeship is very important because it gives you 1 production to all your mines. As I mentioned earlier on in the game, we do play on World Age New, so there's going to be more hills, therefore more mines in these games. You also get commercial hubs on the way to apprenticeship, which means more gold. The markets are also very important for when you want to send trade routes to your allies for the bonuses. Culture, science are the main ones. Obviously horses as well, you're going to unlock on the way to that, so it's just a natural thing to go towards apprenticeship. I'd only recommend that if you're feeling safe, you're feeling a bit confident, you haven't met any players, and you've got a lot of horses. So in our case, we haven't met anyone, which is kind of good, but we haven't found we have unlocked horses, but we haven't found a single horse tile. So if you do want to sort of play it safe, or you do find yourself dying a lot in multiplayer games, then do go towards the other route, which is towards bronze working. You should have iron if you don't have horses. Iron can spawn on grassland hills and plains hills, but they cannot spawn on tiles like horses with improvements on. So for example, these copper tiles This jungle hill, iron can't spawn on that either, so just bear that in mind. So we've got a lot of hills here, like naked hills, so that generally means that we probably are going to have iron. If we don't, that's super unlucky, and that's Civ for you. They sort of bite you in the arse sometimes. Another reason to go bronze working over straight for apprenticeship is if you've got a lot of mines to upgrade. So we're going to mention 2-2s again. If you do have a lot of 2-1 grassland hills in your cities, these are grassland hills here, 2-1. You are going to need to upgrade them, and to upgrade them you need mining tech. So yeah, if you want to play it safe, go straight for bronze working. We're going to be doing that this game. Gold, as long as we're not making a huge army, we're not going to be sort of starving ourselves of gold. We've got some copper too, which we can either work or chop. We can have plantations here if we do go irrigation. So I did scout this city-state with my scout first meet. If you do get a first meet, you're going to get an envoy, a free envoy, which is really good. 2 science in your capital. We've already mentioned why that's so powerful. When you do find a city-state, make sure you check the quest. A little thing you can do is if you don't get a first meet and it's an unrealistic quest. So for example, here we're inland. If we didn't first meet this city-state, so we'd have 0 envoys in it, and it's something like build a galley, which, you know, we're never going to do that. Well, we may do in the future, but we're not doing it in the immediate future. What you can do is declare war against the city-state. Now, you only do this if you've got 0, because it does destroy your envoys there. Declare war, wait 10 turns, peace it again, and then during the next turnover, so when we reach the medieval era, it's going to assume that you've actually got no quest, or you've done the quest, so it's going to give you a new one, and it could be an easy one. So we've got a second scout now. We are going to see what's up here, just to keep an eye on this barb camp. We don't want to get horse rushed by barbs. Barbarian camps can spawn horses if there's a pasture tile nearby. I think it's 4 tiles, it could be 6. I'm pretty sure it's 4 though. Yeah, we're just gonna follow this scout, and I'm gonna go here because it's just the furthest away in that direction. Keep pressing forward, make it a habit, and we get code laws next turn. So we're just gonna keep scouting over here. Now we've done our 2 scouts now, so we can work on a settler. We've also grown. Now this is when you want to check your tiles. So getting your first few settlers out is very important. Just having more cities is generally better in Civ 6 as opposed to previous games. And then with Civ 5, it was 1 city challenge was super viable, but it's not. I mean, you can try it if you like, but you're probably not going to have a very good time. So we are going to be looking at getting fast cities out. So we're going to be working maximum production, which the city is already doing. If this didn't have gold, the game might prioritize this. As we can see here, if we were working this farm tile, it would be 5 turns for the settler, and we'd be growing in 5 as well. Now, if we work this, we are growing in 10 turns, which is double the amount, but we're getting that settler down by a turn, which is very important because you're going to be losing a population as well when you build a settler. So it's not going to hurt us too much. And there's no sort of district that we desperately need 4 population for. So we will be prioritizing the production there just to get the settler out that little bit quicker. So train a heavy chariot. You need the wheel for that, which is here. It is kind of a bit like we don't really want to be going for that. If we do have some, you know, science sort of that we can afford to dump 4 turns into, then we could look at doing that, but we're not going to sort of divert away from the game just to get that. So let's hit next turn. We're building that settler. Carry on scouting. First card you want to do, most of the time you do want to put God King on, +1 faith and +1 gold in the cap. That's every turn. Mainly for the faith, you do need 12 faith for a Pantheon. Pantheons are very, very, very important. Some are extremely strong, others are completely useless. It's also very situational what tiles you've got, and we're also going to put survey on. Now you can put discipline on for the quicker barb killing, but obviously we're not in any immediate danger, so we can just go with that. Quick note, if you do have survey on and you attack something with your scout, you are going to get an upgrade straight away if you're like level 0 going up to level 1. So, oh, we didn't mean to do that. So if there was a barb scout here, for example, and we just slammed into it, it would give us a promotion, which can be handy. Obviously, don't be silly with that. Only slam into things like, well, basically just barb scouts is I'd recommend slamming into. If you're at war with a city-state, from what I mentioned earlier, or you're near some barb warriors, you can fortify your scout. F on the keyboard. The city-state or barb will attack you a lot of the time, so you'll get that promotion as well. Again, only do that though when you're only going to get attacked once. Obviously, you don't want to lose your unit stupidly. That's kind of min-maxing though, so I wouldn't think too much into that. Now, again, we need to make a choice here. The goal is to reach political philosophy, but to get there, we need to choose between going early empire and state workforce first. The reason we don't sort of do these two first and then choose is because we want one of these governor tiles quickly so that we can establish one of our governors. We'll talk about that when we get there. Again, it's more of a war versus simi thing. If you go for early empire, you're going to get foreign trade. So you are going to get you are going to unlock a trade capacity. So you're able to make a trade route, make some important roads between cities, or send a road to a city-state. Roads can be handy for war. They allow you to basically move quicker. It obviously goes a bit further than that, but if you've got roads over hills, for example, you're going to be able to move your army a lot quicker. And then when we do get early empire, we're going to get this card, colonization, 50% production towards settlers, which is probably one of the cards that you're going to be using most in the game. And obviously, yeah, you're going to get the governor tile. Now, if you go for state workforce, you're going to get a Gogi, which is important for war, 50% production towards ancient, classical, era melee, anti-cavalry, and range units. So that is warriors, swordsmen, slingers, archers, spearmen, and yeah, that's it. If you want to build horses, you're going to need maneuver, ancient and classical, era heavy and light cavalry units. So we're going to go with early empire. We are reaching 30 minutes, so I think that's a good place to end the video. Obviously, this is going to be in a lot more parts. I thought we might reach maybe like political philosophy or something like around here somewhere for this, but there's a lot of information to talk about in the first few turns, so hopefully we've covered a lot of information in this video. And yeah, if you like what you see, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Make sure you come over to Twitch as well, where you find me live streaming. If you want to talk to me in real time, talk about some more in-depth stuff, because this was aimed for like a sort of beginner video. So yeah, thank you for watching, guys, and I will see you next time.